Wolf asked. How did you know that? Because he told me. He had the box there in the safe yesterday afternoon. Are you telling me that at 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon that box was in Tingley's safe in his office? I am. And when you returned 2 hours later at 7:40, it was gone. It was. Judd had been there. Judd had taken it. If that lousy ape thinks he can... Be quiet, please, Wolf said testily. He closed his eyes. We sat. Wolf's lips were moving, pushing out and then drawing in again. Judd started to say something and Kramer shushed him. The inspector knew the signs as well as I did. Wolf's eyes opened, but they were directed not at Judd or Philip, but at me. What time, he asked, did it begin raining yesterday? I said, 7 p.m. 7 precisely? Maybe a little after, not much. Not even a drizzle before that. No. Good. He wiggled a finger at Sergeant Foster. Let me have the box. Foster handed him the box. Wolf looked up at Philip Tingley. When you stole this from the safe, you had no key for it, so you had to pry it open. No, Philip denied. I didn't pry it open. The metal is gouged and twisted. I can't help that. I didn't do it. I suppose Judd did. I took it to a locksmith and told him I lost my key and had him make one that would open it. Then it was locked yesterday afternoon. Yes. Good. Wolf looked pleased with himself. That settles it, I think. Let's see. Whereupon he grasped the box firmly in both hands and shook it violently from side to side. His attitude suggested that he was listening for something, but the banging of the shoes against the metal sides of the box was all there was to hear. He nodded with satisfaction. That's fine, he declared. Nuts, Kramer said. By no means. Some day, Mr. Kramer, but no. I suppose never. I would like a few words with you and Archie, if your men will take these gentlemen to the front room. When they were shut off by the soundproofed door, Kramer advanced on Wolf with his jaw leading the way. Look here! No, Wolf said decisively. I tolerate your presence here, and that's all. Take a guest from my house with a warrant, will you? I want to know what has been removed from Mr. Tingley's office. But if Judd... No. Take them if you want to. Get them out of here, and I'll proceed alone. Do you know who killed Tingley? Certainly, I know all about it. But I need something. What has been removed from that office? Kramer heaved a sigh. Damn you, anyway. The corpse, 2 bloody towels, the knife and the weight, 5 small jars with some stuff in them which we found in a drawer of Tingley's desk. We had the stuff analyzed and it contained no quinine. We were told they were routine samples. That's all? Yes. No other sample jars were found. No. Then it's still there. It ought to be. It must be. Archie, go and get it. Find it and bring it here. Mr. Kramer will telephone his men there to help you. Huh? Kramer grunted. I will. Certainly you will. As for me, I put in, I'm a wonder at finding things, but I get better results when I know what I'm looking for. Pfui. What was it I spit out yesterday at lunch? Oh, is that it? Okay. I beat it then. It was only a 3-mile ride to Tingley's, and I figured it might take longer than that for Wolf to get Kramer to make the phone call, so I took a taxi to East 29th Street and picked up the roadster and drove it from there. The entrance door at the top of the stone steps was locked, but just as I was lifting my fist to beat a tattoo, I heard the chatter of feet inside, and in a moment the door opened and a towering specimen looked down at me. You Goodwin? He demanded. I am Mr. Goodwin, old lady Kramer. Yeah, you sound like that. You sound like what I've heard of you. Enter. I did so, and preceded him up the stairs. In Tingley's office, an affair with a thin little mouth and a big face was awaiting us, seated at a table littered with newspapers. You fellows are to help me, I stated. Okay, the one at the table said superciliously. We'll just as soon have the exercise, but Bowen did this room. If you think you can find a button after Bowen... "That will do, my man," I said graciously. "Bowen's all right as far as he goes, but he lacks subtlety. He's too scientific. He uses rulers and calipers, whereas I use my brain. For instance, since he did that desk, it's 100 to 1 that there's not an inch of it unaccounted for. But what if he neglected to look in that hat?" I pointed to Tingley's hat still there on the hook. "He might have, because there's nothing scientific about searching a hat, but you just take it down and look at it." "That's wonderful," Thinmouth said. "Explain some more." "Sure, glad to," I walked across. "Do you ask why Tingley would put an object in his hat? It was the logical place for it. He wanted to take it home with him, and meanwhile he wanted to keep it hidden from someone who might have gone snooping around his desk in other obvious places. He was not an obvious man. Neither am I." I reached up and took the hat from the hook. And it was in the hat! That made up for all the bad breaks that had come my way over a period of years. Nothing like that will ever happen again. It was so utterly unexpected that I nearly dropped it when it rolled out of the hat, and I grabbed and caught it, and I had it. A midget-sized jar, the kind they used for the samples in the factory. It was about 2/3 full, with a label on it marked in pencil, 11-14-Y. "You see," I said, trying my damnedest not to let my voice tremble with excitement, "it's a question of brains." They were gawking at me, absolutely speechless. I got out my penknife and, with the tip of the blade, dug out a bit of the stuff in the jar and conveyed it to my mouth. My God, it tasted sweet. I mean, bitter. I spat it out. "I'm going to promote you boys," I said indulgently, "and raise your pay, and give you a month's vacation." I departed. I hadn't even taken off my coat and hat. It was too bad dinner had to be delayed the first day that Fritz was back on the job after his gripe, but it couldn't be helped. While we were waiting for Carrie Murphy to come, I went to the kitchen and had a glass of milk and tried to cheer Fritz up by telling him that gripe often leaves people so that they can't taste anything. At 7:30, Wolf was at his desk, and I was at mine with my notebook. Seated near me, with a Dick behind his chair, was Philip Tingley. Beyond him were Carrie Murphy, Miss Yates, and another Dick. Inspector Kramer was at the other end of Wolf's desk, next to Guthrie Judd. None of them looked very happy. Carrie, in particular. It was her Wolf started on after Kramer had turned the meeting over to him. "There shouldn't be much in this," Wolf said bluntly. What he meant was that he hoped there wouldn't be that close to dinner time. "Miss Murphy, did you go to Miss Yates' apartment yesterday evening to discuss something with her?" Carrie nodded. "Did she make a telephone call?" "Yes." "Whom did she call, and what was the time?" "Mr. Arthur Tingley. It was 8 o'clock." "At his home or his office?" "The office." She stopped to swallow. "She tried his home first, but he wasn't there, so she called the office and got him." "She talked with him?" "Yes." "Did you?" "No." Wolf's eyes moved. "Miss Yates, is Miss Murphy's statement correct?" "It is," said Gwendolen firmly. "You recognize Tingley's voice?" "Certainly, I've been hearing it all my life." "Of course you have. Thanks." Wolf shifted again. "Mr. Philip Tingley, yesterday afternoon your brother asked you to be at his office at 7:30 in the evening. Is that right?" "Yes," Philip said aggressively. "Did you go?" "Yes, but not at 7:30. It was 10 minutes late." "Did you see him?" "I saw him dead, on the floor behind the screen. I saw Amy Duncan there too, unconscious, and I felt her pulse, and naturally. Being human, you displayed humanity." Wolf made a face. Are you sure Arthur Tingley was dead?" Philip grunted. "If you had seen him—" "His throat had been cut." "Yes, and the blood had spread—" "Thank you," Wolf said curtly. "Mr. Guthrie Judd." The two pairs of eyes met in midair. Wolf wiggled a finger at him. "Well, sir, it looks as if you'll have to referee this. Miss Yates says Tingley was alive at 8 o'clock, and Philip says he was dead at 7:40. We'd like to hear from you what shape he was in at 7:30. Will you tell us? No. If you don't, you're an ass. The screws are all loose now. There is still a chance this business will be censored for the press if I feel like being discreet. But I'm not bound, as law officers are, to protect the embarrassing secrets of prominent people from the public curiosity. I'm doing a job, and you can help me out a little. If you don't... Wolf shrugged. Judd breathed through his nose. Well, Wolf asked impatiently. Tingley was dead. Judd bit it off. Then you did enter that building and go to that office at 7:30. Yes, that was the time of the appointment. Tingley was on the floor with his throat cut. Near him was a young woman I have never seen, unconscious. I was in the room less than a minute. Wolf nodded. I'm not a policeman, and I'm certainly not the district attorney, but I think it is quite likely that you will never be under the necessity of telling this story in a courtroom. They won't want to inconvenience you. However, in the event that a subpoena takes you to the witness stand, are you prepared to swear to the truth of what you have just said? I am. Good. Wolf's gaze swept to Miss Yates. Are you still positive it was Tingley you talked to, Miss Yates? She met his eyes squarely. I am. Her voice was perfectly controlled. I don't say they're lying. I don't know. I only know if it was someone imitating Arthur Tingley's voice, I've never heard anything to equal it. You still think it was he? I do. Why did you tell me this morning that when you got home yesterday you stood your umbrella in the bathtub to drain? Because I